Good morning and welcome to your midweek edition of your breakfast show on Leadership Television Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Gbebo, your host on today's edition of the program, December 6th, Wednesday 2023. And of course, as you can see, we have an array of newspapers on our table for review this Wednesday. And we have Leadership, Nigeria's most influential newspaper, THISDAY, The Punch, The Guardian, Daily Sun, and Vanguard. Except for one or two papers, the other papers have a developing story on the KADUNA bombing that took place on Monday. And without wasting much time, we'll flag up with Nigeria's most influential leadership. Leadership's leading story says Kaduna bombing. Tinubu, northern governors orders demand probe. Military apologizes, says terrorists disguised as civilians to evade attacks. Request notice of public gathering from residents. And of course, underneath that, we have pictures from the mass burial that took place in Kaduna. And of course, some of the victims that are undergoing treatment in the hospitals. Well, may the soul of the departed rest in peace. As beside that, we have Imo Supreme Court finds Ozekomet 40 million naira for over frivolous case. Imo Supreme Court finds Ozekomet 40 million naira over frivolous case. Frivolous in quote. First Petroleum offers $2.5 billion annual investment for Nigeria. Obagbina to receive Dame Lifetime Award. Obagbina is the publisher of THISDAY newspaper. Israeli forces kill scores of Palestinians in southern Gaza. Budget comments. Presidency accuses Obi of post-election trauma. The story continues on page 7 of Leadership. And in the business boss, we have COP 28. That is Conference of Parties 28. Minister NNPC recommit to lowering methane emissions. ASU laments exodus of lecturers from public varsities. Federal government to prosecute gender-based violence in schools is on page 7 of Leadership. Federal government to prosecute gender-based violence in schools. And with that, we move to the page 3 of the paper, as we normally do every day on Inside Nigeria. And today is our stand. Our stand is on still on COP 28 delegation. Still on Conference of Parties 28 delegation. Of course, an issue that has continued to generate controversies following the delegation. Nigeria has a large delegation to the event at UAE, Dubai. From our stand, we move to the back page of the paper where we have Wednesday column with Aisha Osori. Aisha with this Wednesday's writing on gender-based violence and supernatural justice. Gender-based violence and supernatural justice, and that takes us to Ghana Must Go. Ghana Must Go says there's nothing like budget padding, Iyola or Misore. And of course, guess what the answer is off the mic. Interesting and funny, you might say. So for more continuation of headline stories, inside stories, the editorial, and of course back page column, you log on to the website of Leadership, www.leadership.ng. Yes, still on Kaduna bombing. This day also captures it on its cover today. CDS, that is Chief of Defense Staff, on Kaduna bombing. We acted on intelligence but missed. It's highly regrettable. Defense Headquarters explains how drone acquired eliminated targets. Says suspicious movement of celebrating crowd posed threats. Army Chief visits victims, apologizes to review operations. Tinubu orders probe, declares incident painful, disturbing. Atiku, Obi say miscalculated airstrikes becoming worrisome. ACF, NEF, JNI call for investigation, compensation. That's the leading story on this day, as well as some other select newspapers. CDS on Kaduna bombing. We acted on intelligence but missed. Is highly regrettable. Defense Headquarters explains how drone acquired eliminated targets. Says suspicious movement of celebrating crowd posed threats. Army Chief visits victims, apologizes to review operations. Tinubu orders probe, declares incident painful, disturbing. Atiku, Obi say miscalculated airstrikes becoming worrisome. Arewa Consultative Forum, Northern Elders Forum, and JNI call for investigation compensation. With that, we move to the stories above this headline story. KADUNA, Nigeria eyeing multi-trillion-dollar climate change financing, privatization to fund 2024 budget. Ministers, senators welcome plan to privatize MDA's real estate property. And underneath that, Oba Egbina to receive lifetime achievement honor at the awards. These are the leading story on this day. Today, Wednesday, December 6, 2023. From that, it's still the same leading story on The Punch. The Punch says Kaduna village bombing, death toll hits 120. Villagers allege military bombed twice. Kaduna village bombing, death toll hits 120. Villagers allege military bomb twice. One family loses 32 members. Culprits must be punished. Survivors, ACF, JNI tell military. Army chief begs victims, says soldiers mistook villagers for bandits. Tinubu, Atiku, mourn. And of course, just like other newspapers, like Leadership before it, we have the pictorials on some of the victims receiving treatment in at the Barao Diko Teaching Hospital, Kaduna, yesterday. Yes, underneath that, FCT multi-billion naira housing scheme fails to fly after 10 years. Man attempts suicide as wife flees with 2 children. Over 9,000 civil servants fail promotion exam. The story is on page 12 of The Punch. With that, we move to the ones above the masthead. Auction, presidential aircraft bidders get December 24 deadline. Federal government seeks 35 billion naira to revive Ajaokuta Steel. Power Finance Ministries get 618 billion naira loan. CSO's kick. That's the story that continues on page 19 of The Punch. For continuation inside stories, you log on to the website of The Punch while we move over to the next paper on our menu, Daily Sun. Daily Sun still has the same leading story. Tears as victims of Kaduna bombing get mass burial. Tinubu orders investigation. Atiku Islamic group orders mourn, insist on probe. Army chief visits village, tenders apology, donates 10 million naira to injured survivors. And of course, we also had the picture of mass burial taking place yesterday, with the picture inset of the chief of army staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, with district head with Gaza, Alhaji Aminu Idris, and residents of Tudumbiri, Igabi local government area of Kaduna State at the burial of victims of aero bombing yesterday. The second leading story there says CAN, that is a Christian Association of Nigeria, sought and cautioned against dangerous immigration. Urged Nigerians to avoid relocation plan, exposing them to danger, inhumane treatment. Umba presents 521.6 billion naira budget, restates commitment to rapid development. Beside that, we have 2019 Imo Buba. Supreme Court dismisses a headgear suit to sack Zodima. Slams 40 million naira fine on Ozekome for filing frivolous motion. Oil gas service providers exiting Nigeria in droves, IPPG. NLC seeks new minimum wage commensurate with cost of living. Nigerian political scene forest of chaos. Kuka. Court dismisses forgery case against Abga chieftain Dozie Njoku. CBN to sanction banks holding cash. Insists 2.99 trillion naira in circulation. The story is on page 12 to 5 of Daily Sun, which takes us to the last one just beside the masthead on the cover today. Judgments. Abuja communities hold solidarity rally for Kano, Zamfara, Plateau orders. For more on these headline stories, log on to the website of Daily Sun, www.sunnynewsonline.com. With that, move over to The Guardian. Guardian has different story altogether as its headline story. States grown in debts, poor funding despite 16 trillion naira FAFAC windfall. States grown in debts, poor funding despite 16 trillion naira FAFAC windfall. And of course, The Guardian has an illustration beneath the headline story. And beneath that, we have local content stagnates at 54% amid $25 billion oil investment divestment. Senate tries MPA customs over $1.68 billion revenue loss. Makinde presents 434.2 billion naira 2024 budget to Assembly. COP28, Nigeria reaps windfall $1 million Africa focus pledges. The Gambia returns €9 bound stowaways to Lagos. The Gambia returns €9 bound stowaways to Lagos. Kaduna bombing, Army chief apologizes as victims get mass burial. These are headline stories on The Guardian today, Wednesday, December 6, 2023. For more stories, continuation, log on to the website of The Guardian, www.guardian.ng. From The Guardian, we move over to the last paper on our menu today, which also has different story altogether from the previous ones. 2024 budget, Tinubu Shetima 8 to spend 15.961 billion naira on trips. That is the headline story on Vanguard. 2024 budget, Tinubu Shetima 8 to spend 15.961 billion naira on trips. Villa Mechanical Electrical Maintenance 9 billion naira. Vehicles 6 billion naira. Foodstuff catering material supplies 602 million naira. State House miscellaneous 2.54 billion naira. Villa computers repairs 980 million. Villa honorarium now 365.8 million naira. These are the budget line for the 2024 budget, as Vanguard headlines Tinubu Shetima 8 to spend 15.961 billion naira on trips. Meaning that we have federal government's deficit spending rises 11% to 7.88 trillion naira, defies 45% increase in revenue. IPOB, we must adopt non-kinetic approach to end insecurity in Southeast Shetima. NYC 7, don't let our children die in kidnappers' den, parents beg government. And for sports, WAFCON 2024, Super Falcons land in Morocco, which takes us to the ones above the masthead. Budget defense, Senate wants MDAs against sabotaging 2024 budget cycle. Kaduna airstrike, defense headquarters apologizes, insists terrorists were killed in Lagama. Tinubu returns from COP28 summit in Dubai. Federal government won't weaponize religion, ethnicity, SGF test Sultan, can't, others. These are the headline stories today on Vanguard newspaper. For continuation of these headline stories, inside stories, and the commentary, you log on to the website of Vanguard, www.vanguardngr.com. Viewers, with that, we come to the end of the first segment of the program, Inside Nigeria, your breakfast show on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Webo, and don't go away. We have the second part of the segment coming in. Of course, the guest is already in the house. Stay tuned.
Leadership TV, for God and country. Leadership TV, for God and country. Leadership TV, for God and country.
case you're just joining us, the program is Inside Nigeria, your breakfast show on television, reaching you on leadership television. My name is Winnie Global, and of course, as you can see in the studio, I have my guest, Hamisu Suleiman. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure. Hashim.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, I'm short of words to talk about this Kaduna village bombing by the military that took place. Meetings is one too many, because we've had series of cases whereby we've seen in Zamfara, we've seen in Borno, we've seen in Yobe, and now Kaduna. What is really happening? Is it that our military is not coordinated?
Well, incidentally, I had the chief of defense staff speak about the fact that the assemblage that they saw looked more like the activities of the bandits, and so consequent upon that judgment, mistakenly also he admitted that it was at the end of the day the mistake they went into. So for me, really my major takeaway, as regrettable as it is, as much as we feel so bad about it, but I think there is one critical departure that I noticed, which is the part of admittance. I think the responsible agencies have deliberately accepted and also apologized, and that it will only serve as a lesson. I think this is a departure from the past, where you will have some sort of trying to cover the story, trying to deceive the citizens into. So for me, I think that was a major departure. And for me, myself personally, one of the things I've always advocated for in strategic communications with the citizens regarding the activities of government is to the extent that there has to be honesty, right? There is no need of this trying to, like, this our popular word, whining, trying to whine the citizens into thinking something else that they're not seeing. But I think for that part alone, honestly, I feel that there's some sincerity of purpose. An investigation has been launched into the matter, and so I think we should also wait to see with how much urgency they're going to dispatch and get done with that investigation, so we'll find out exactly what it is that went down. But I think in terms of the optics of how they have managed their mistakes, I think as human beings also, it is only incumbent on us to really understand with them. But indeed, it's regrettable, and may the soul of all the departed rest in peace.
Amen. And but yes, they owned up to their mistake, but don't you think it's one bombing too many? Because we've had similar situations in the times past, whereby in Zamfara, we saw even last year in Nasarawa here, where about 40 were also killed similarly, and of course the military will say it was an error. If it's not it's enough. But this time around, don't you think that there's something to do, a realignment, find out what can be done to guide against this in future? That is moving forward.
Exactly, that's the point I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Apologizing, and the same thing happens again and again, because even by mere apologizing, can't bring back the dead. Like the point states that dead or hits 120.
Absolutely. So I agree with you. So the thing is, right, all of this we're talking about, because it's not me and you who will do anything about it. It's still the institutions and the government. And we would have to also agree that at least this is the first incidence of sort under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, right? And so therefore you cannot use the methodology or the approach of the past government as to this. And that's why I pointed specifically to a departure that I have noticed, because I am somebody who follows up on these public issues very well. And part of the areas that the Buhari government lost it so badly was in the area of strategic communication. They want to deny everything. They want to make you feel, they will even gaslight the citizens and make them feel, no, you shouldn't have a concern over this, you shouldn't have. But in this one, I think they were emphatic to come out to say it was a mistake on our side, consequent upon an assemblage that we saw that looked like what we're used to with the bandits, right?
Yes.
And so they owned up to it. And the president himself has ordered a probe. So I think in this, just as human beings, even if you have a rift with your wife or anybody, and you say I apologize. I think at that point it's only incumbent on the other person to at least give you a benefit. No, a benefit of the doubt. Let's not look at it like from the point of view of accepting, but I think we should now give them the benefit of the doubt to see what comes out from the investigation, and then maybe at the end of the day we'll make. So for me, like on the general optics of, for example, the Tinubu administration, I think it's rather to. Citizens are saying all of their concerns in different areas, but I think we should at least give it to the end of next year. We'll be able to understand the true culture of it. Are they going to continue on this thread of admitting and also launching investigation, and we see what comes out of it, and then we'll make whatever we want to make out of it? Is that what's going to be the case? I think we should just give that little time. But again, we must insist that it's regrettable.
It is.
And we must feel the pain of the victims.
And like Punch said, and the story trended, one family lost about 32 members. It's so sad, it's so heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking.
Very much so. Very much so.
Thank you so much. So with that, we move ahead to another paper still trending since the news broke the internet. I would say that is the issue of a conference of parties 28 taking place in UAE. And of course, it has continued to generate controversies. And of course, even leadership has editorial on it today, still on for 28 delegation.
Yes.
What do you see? And so another paper also wrote, headlined a story that some of the cooks, stewards of the presidential villa were part of the entire delegation too.
So you see on this issue, to be honest, like I'm going to depart a little from the general opinion of Nigerians. You see, a country runs on a budget. This budget is made up of proposals from different MDAs, including their overheads and their capital expenditures, right?
Yes.
And then, so take for example a ministry. The accounting officer of a ministry is the PAMSEC. Once the budget has been approved and it becomes an act, that means it has become a law. That means every agency or MDA is allowed to go on. So for example now, if the government has said 422 people went on government delegations. There is no way the president will know, for example, that the PAMSEC of Ministry of Environment, for example, in his overhead, he has monies meant for that, and so he goes to execute it. He has done nothing wrong because it's in his budget. And his funds for 2023 budget has been released to him, and he feels the need that maybe 10 people, for example, in his ministry will go. There is no way the president will know about that because that's him performing his statutory duties. So all I see is different MDAs sponsoring people from the provisions of their own budget and from their own judgment of the fact that they need to be there. Now, perhaps you might want to probe more into their judgment of being worthy of going to COP28, but like I can't put this kind of blame on the president. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because everybody it's the budget. Once the budget is signed by him, that means it has given go ahead for every MDA to go ahead to implement their budget as they wish. Do you understand? And all of these people have this overhead provisions for traveling abroad. After all, people who travel abroad, I mean, whether it's even on a personal level for vacation or anything. So ministries have a right to determine what's best for them and for them to actually get but what's most important is, at the end of the day, for me, if I were the president, for example, right now, is after everybody is back, then I'll now need everybody to forward a report to probably the SGF stating what and what and what. Maybe like the cost benefit now, for example, for them to send to say, okay, yes, we spent 10 million to take so number of people, and this is what we're able to bring back to the country based on that. And maybe by that evaluation now, the president may be able to identify those who probably only went there just because they have the budgetary provisions and went there on a jamboree. And at that, I think the appropriate sanctions or queries should be meted out. But regarding that, the president will know that these are the people going really from all of the MDAs. I really don't think that.
Yes. However, many people, Nigerians, expect that the president will wield the big stick this time around, as he did for UNGA that took place in
No, how do you mean? Like,
US.
That's what I want
that
to
period,
understand.
the president said, if you don't have any business being in the US.
Oh yes,
this,
exactly. That's it. That's it. Yes, yes.
So many people expected that the president will also told that same line this time around.
Yeah, but that's not him now. That's what I'm saying. So the 422 cuts across all MDAs. And I'm telling you, I understand how public service works. there is no way he would know. Everybody is implementing there, but the only time he will get to know probably about a project is when the project is within the threshold of the Federal Executive Council. Of course, for that, a ministry cannot award the contract until it gets to the Federal Executive Council and they sign it off. But there are other thresholds that are down, that are not up to the Federal Executive. Some of them stop at the Ministerial Tenders Board, some stop at the Parastatal Tenders Board, some even within the Chief Executive's threshold. Do you understand? So all of those other areas, now there is no way the president will know the daily workings of the agencies, how they work, what they want to do, whether they're organizing conferences, unless of course he's invited to any of them. So for me, I think we need to look at some of these things critically. That we are broke, as you know, we keep hammering on it. We have to remember that before President Buhari left, he left an appropriation act. Now an act is a law.
Yes.
And when something becomes a law, it must be implemented.
Yes.
Perhaps maybe if the government doesn't have so much money, it could say, no, for the capital, I'm not going to fund 100%. But the danger of not funding 100% of this budget is what results in us having uncompleted projects all over the country. Do you understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it is your budget that you have to get right from the beginning. So if there are items in the budget that you feel they are not necessary, or why a so agency would put a proposal to go to COP, for example, or go to international, you could question it from that point and take you. So from that point already, that MDA knows I cannot do this. But once those provisions have passed through the budget and they have their releases of funds with them, then I think they're at liberty to, and they have done nothing wrong under the law by implementing the Appropriation Act. And this is the fact of the matter.
Okay. I wish Nigerians are hearing that so that they should stop wailing over President's delegation. We're talking about budget. That's what Vanguard newspaper is leading with. That Tinubu Shetima aids to spend 15.961 billion naira on trips.
Yeah, so again, you see, on all of these kind of issues, right? For me, who is,
of course, he gave a breakdown.
look, unless you're exposed and you understand what's going on. Like I do make a lot of travels around even African countries here. You go to Kigali, you see so many Kenyans have come for either this conference, people from Tanzania have come, people from South Africa, people from everywhere. So there are a whole lot of, the world is becoming a one place where networking is becoming a key. And in fact, in the beginning times when I started attending some of these conferences around the world, I'm like, really too, what's the need? We just come and then we gather. But later on, I'm beginning to understand that the basic importance is networking. It's for us to come, I meet you, you meet me, and perhaps through that meeting, I may be able to attract you to Nigeria, or that person may be able to attract me to his own country. So there will be trips, there will be all of those things that will happen. Do you understand? Like, it's not like, even if Nigeria becomes rich, people feel Nigeria is poor, but it's not like even if Nigeria becomes rich, anybody's going to come to your door and knock and put money in your pocket. So for me, like I keep telling young people and everybody, there are a whole lot of opportunities in Nigeria. It all depends on what you're good at. So many of our young people are doing good after developing their talents and selling out all the stadiums and doing what they have to do. So for me, really, we have to begin to understand some of these things for what they are. There will be trips. Let this kind of headlines not come and be looking as if just because there's a perception of the fact that we're broke, then we'll all lock ourselves inside and put a shield, and put a shield, and then lock you with a padlock and throw the key into Atlantic Ocean. What? No, come on. I don't think it's as bad as that.
But you're talking about,
I really don't think it's as
boils
bad
down
as
to
that.
states. Why all eyes are always
Exactly.
on the
Yeah,
federal
not
government.
even another area. You understand?
Yes, the guidance leads with states grown in debt, poor funding despite 16 trillion naira FAC windfall. What is actually happening? Because all eyes are always on the center without people taking cognizance of the fact that governance actually begins at the grassroots level, talking about local government and states. Instead, many people always concentrate on federal. What is happening with state government? And it's always difficult to hold state governments accountable.
Yeah, so the thing is, right, because again, it's every tier of government is independent. The governor now is not under any obligation to get any approval from Mr.
I like
President.
what you said. Every tier of government is independent. But how come local governments are not be able to exert that their independence?
Yep, it's because of the Constitution. The Constitution has tied them up to the state, that there has to be a joint account between the states and the local government. Yeah, it's in the constitution. So those monies are there. And it was during Obasanjo that was done. Do you understand? And even created the State Independent Electoral Commission. So the states also conduct the elections. And that's an area. So, but the point now is, who has the power to check that? No, I don't think nobody, unless you get a honest state governor.
Because the president always shy away from. Why can't the National Assembly, who has the power vested on it to legislate?
Yeah, but
Lord,
so that's why it's democracy. That's why it's democracy.
Every year, 1 billion naira is budgeted in their budget.
You see, civil society. Review. That's where the role of civil society comes. Because if you're expecting that any local government chairman who knows that his account is jointly managed with the state governor, and who knows that the state Independent Electoral Commission or anybody in the state can get him out in a minute, you have to be fair with him, unless his resolve is extremely strong and he feels he can pull out that fight. So I think the only people who can help the local governments to pull this fight has to be the civil society. There has to be immense pressure. There has to be pressure on the National Assembly to perhaps amend that part of the constitution. That will be done, and so that we will know that the local government funds will not be going to them directly. But as it is right now, that's what it is in the constitution. And then these state governments, they're making a lot of money. In fact, since President Tinubu came into power, and that's why when some people say, why are the savings from subsidy? Me, if you ask me, I'll tell you I've seen it, because in the past 3 months, the states, federal and local government have shared not less than 900 billion each month, as against highest 600 billion during Buhari. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So for me, that 300, so there's a lot of money going to them. But what are they also doing to ensure they create the necessary enabling environments for their citizens in those states to complement the federal government? All of these are areas that really need to be looked into. I don't know. I think some state governors are trying. You cannot say all of them, but majority are really, I think there's a lot of misplaced priorities.
But like I mentioned earlier, how do you hold state governments accountable? Because state governments are seen as demigods in their states.
Exactly. So
anyone that stands, any activist does so at risk to his or her own life. So how do you actually hold state governments accountable?
Only the CSOs can do that. That's why I tell you, only the civil society can help. The people who have to come in. When you say civil society, it just means people who want things to be done in a certain way to come together. So for example, even back in those states, could we begin to have the citizens really recognize themselves and form into an action? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? An action group to demand for certain things. And I think when the voice gets loud, definitely. But as it is, the citizens are quiet, appearing like they accept the arrangement as it is. So who am I now to come and cry more than they believe? Me, I know they did that one.
It's really quite difficult. At the end of the day, you see that many Nigerians are always looking at the federal. What is the federal government doing? The federal government is doing this, not doing that. At the end of the day, they know that they are also from states.
Yeah, and a whole lot of money is coming in there. A whole lot of money is coming in there.
Development is supposed to start from the grassroots, which is not being done. So it's really, really, really unfortunate.
But if the citizens are not speaking, what can you do? The only thing we can do is hold platforms like this, tell them that it is their right to demand for accountability. It is left for them to hear and act or not. But me and you alone, or me alone now, I can do little or nothing. So apart from using my voice to perhaps tell you what it is.
All right, thank you so much. Another story just before you go is the issue of a Japa syndrome. Japa syndrome, apart from hitting our hospitals, is also affecting our universities. There is a trendy story that, in fact, it's also on the cover of Leadership, that ASU laments exodus of lecturers from public universities. No fewer than 500 of our lecturers are said to have departed for greener pastures outside the country. So what's actually happening? And Denison says, can Sultan caution against dangerous immigration, all Nigerians to avoid relocation plan, exposing them to danger, inhumane treatment.
The
but you cannot actually stop them.
Yeah, exactly. And the JACPA itself, you have to categorize it, right? So when you talk about lecturers and doctors, for example, I can understand that part. Because, look, as much as people are maybe having all these negative thoughts about Nigeria, trust me, we're still doing fairly well in terms of
But however,
reading,
yes,
in terms of
yes.
like really acquiring this education. Because I'm telling you, if you go to all of those European countries and those Western countries now, and even the Arab countries, they have immense deficit of these professionals, and Nigeria has become one of their greatest source of having these professionals come to them to work. And I mean, there's no problem about that, because every year, after all, we're churning out these graduates and all of them and all of that. And when they get there, they're making the country proud, because they're actually getting the job done for those people. So I guess there's now review all over the world, and the thing is getting into every country that Nigerians are good with their professional job. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's okay. I think that's us exporting job and all of that. But there's the other part of the jackpot that I term as those lazy young Nigerians who just like to, because look, some of us have gone through the streets and have actually been able to carve a niche for ourselves, and so that has made us to believe indeed that in this code, but there are methodology. You have to be patient. You have to not be seeing the government as an antagonist. From an antagonist point of view, you have to calm down. You have to go through the system. You have to even talk to people you don't like their faces. You have to mingle with them. You have to do what you have to do, and at the end of the day, you break through and do what you have to do. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. So for me, in terms of professionals living, we still have a whole lot that are coming out from the universities, trust me. So I think we have enough to fill up this. We're 200 million people. People should never forget that. So we have enough to export. I think so.
And I saw another positive side to this jackpot, just a few days ago. Somebody said that it's actually good for Nigeria, because at the end of the day, the diaspora remittances is higher.
Oh, absolutely.
He said they send money
yes, they
to
do.
their families.
Oh, yes,
to
that's
their
the
loved ones.
pointers I'm telling you. So we can send, trust me, we still have them coming out every year from the universities.
But however, the negative impact of it is that like especially in our hospitals, like UI and Lutz recently said that they have closed some of their outpatient department because they don't have doctors anymore to head those departments.
So that area now,
that is what we are looking at. Why is the federal government? Well, isn't it high time the federal government tweaked its civil service rules so that they can actually employ? Because these hospitals are finding it difficult to employ new doctors to fill in the gap.
So that's where now the government comes in. I will have to say that the Minister of Health that was appointed, I think everybody has agreed, Mohammed Patti, that everybody has agreed that he's a technocrat and he knows what he's doing. And we can see that he has got some pretty handsome budgetary provision for 2024. So I think on that also we would have to then give him the pen. I think he understands around all of these areas. After all, he's even also coming from an international
and he was here before.
He was here before, left, and now he's back. So I think he understands around all of these things, and I guess we should expect him. We're expecting, we're hopeful, and I guess he shouldn't betray himself. That at the end of the day, by that end of next year that I said earlier, we should be able to see more things clear in terms of what to do. But really,
because you're always on the move.
We have to move now. That's how it is. That's what we're telling the young people to do. To move. You have to move. Keep moving. Run through. But at the end of the day, you will persevere and you'll get out of it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you. I look forward to having you.